I feel like saying something like completely wrong, like, well, we come from a house of Satanists, so I think everybody was so I don't really talk about religion, but I don't. Just like, yeah, it was just a joke, really. I'd like to share 3 poems with you, and I believe because we're supposed to be on until 2:30, but it's open until 3. If everybody would like to do one poem, or if a couple people want to do one poem or something, if you wanted to stay, you're more than welcome to. So, just wanted to get that out because that's just how I roll, I guess. I'm looking for things that about community or whatnot. I have another poem that is from the book Pheromemes, 2015-2017 Show Poems, and it's I try to pose like the face on it, something. But this is from another piece from the poetry show Akitu, and it's called Everyone Celebrates Together. I've always been the one to plan everything, and I knew I wanted to celebrate on New Year's Eve. It's weird to think about ancient calendars. They used to begin at the vernal equinox in March. And it's weirder to think that the celebration started in 2000 BC in Mesopotamia in Iraq. But even though the older cultures used different calendars and celebrated the New Year on different dates, Ethiopians celebrated with the rain on September 11th. The Thai's New Year, people actually splash blessing water on March 13th. The Chinese New Year varies with the lunar calendar, with the lion, the dragon dances, drums, fireworks, and more. And all in red for good luck, which for the new year. And some countries celebrate by running into water, freezing cold water, which I actually did recently. That was crazy. I saw this new polar bear brunch repeatedly, topped with remembering the past and celebrating the new. So yeah, I usually plan everything. So on December I said, I'm tired of coming up with a plan for New Year's. And I told someone else to come up with a plan. Being a Midwesterner, someone looked at me and said, let's watch the ball drop in New York City. He didn't have a plan where it would be, he just said it as an idea. And my first impulse...
sorry about that, it must be some sort of child protection, sorry about that.
Oh, everybody, well, is there a child in this room? I think we can't find it.
It's not just my phone.
It's everybody's phone.
Okay.
Yeah, it's everybody. Sorry about that, but...
It's probably in Burke Burnett, and it's always in Burke Burnett, Texas.
Okay.
Sealy. Yeah.
So my first impulse was to think that this was, ludicrous. I mean, it's too far away. We've got no places to stay. And then I gave it a second thought. Salespeople in my company sell in New York. Maybe I could just float this idea their way, and maybe we'd actually have a place to stay and we could actually pull this thing off. After I mentioned it to just one saleswoman I'd never met before in person, they invited me to their home in Connecticut so that we could train into the city with her son and his friends and celebrate New Year. One phone call was all it took, and the next thing I knew is that we were road tripping in New York to watch the ball drop in Times Square. And at times like this, in times where we celebrate, everyone is instantly your friend. My coworker brought me to the Chrysler building so we can actually get the view from our company's Manhattan office. And it was the only time I actually photographed the World Trade Center towers, buildings that you never really think about unless the news is bad. So anyway, no, it wasn't time for sightseeing. And people complain about the traffic in New York, but it didn't seem much different from Chicago. And on this one trip, the roads were my friends, and we got along just fine. But forget the car on New Year's Eve. My coworker's son, his name actually was Trip. He took me on a trip on a train with his new friends into this new town until we found a perfect place for a perfect view around the street. And on this one night, we all screamed together. We all celebrated together, and we are all stuck together, even leaning on each other for the nap on our ride home on the train. Because maybe it's worth it to work on that bucket list, even if you don't have one. Because with a thing like this, even if it just comes up from some one off-the-cuff suggestion to try something that you've never tried before, it might amount to meeting tons of new people for moments you'll never forget. And remember, with these festivities, everyone can celebrate together. And this is a book that I thought would be groovy to share with you guys. A collection of my magazine, cc&d magazines, a collection of things from different issues, and it's called On the Edge, which it looks like I'm on the edge, tumbling into Lake Michigan in this shot for it. But so a bunch of things from different issues of cc&d magazine, and I thought I would share one for you, and it is Expanded Extremes. It's a variation of the poem Holding Hands. When we're walking down the street in stride, and our feet pump out the same rhythm, and our shoulders are almost touching, and our hands seem to brush up against each other for one brief moment. In that one brief moment, he reaches over and takes my hand. He slides his fingers around my hand, and I feel him move along my palm to my fingers. When he moves along my palm to my fingers, no one knows what it feels like then, when his fingers curl and hold me tight. Well, it feels like Pop Rocks. You know that feeling when it feels like Pop Rocks, and you know what it feels like when that candy is sliding down your throat, and after you let it explode, and it's still on your tongue, and it's tingling. When it's still on your tongue and it's tingling, no one else is eating these Pop Rocks, and no one knows this tingling feeling, and this is my little secret. And I love keeping this little secret. When I feel this feeling like never before, and it makes me want to laugh and cry, because when I look around the room, I see no one is eating those Pop Rocks, and no one knows this feeling when he's holding my hand. No one knows this feeling when he's holding my hand. It's like candy and cupids and hearts and sunshine and all of those generic symbols of love that never explain it just right. And these words can never explain feelings like this just right. It's catching your breath, falling from an airplane. It's climbing a mountain. It's standing on a glacier. It's following dolphins. It's swimming with sharks. It's turning your head and seeing those fingers interlocked with yours as you're walking in stride. Because when those fingers are interlocked, you want to hold on for your life. And now you have something you've never felt, all just by holding his hand. As I said, I wrote for every day, of the year, and I was doing Valentine's Day things, but I also wrote one on my parents' wedding anniversary. And that was on the 18th of February, and I'd like to share it with you. And it's called Learning How Love Lasts. On Valentine's Day, 4 days before their wedding date, as only a little girl, I would see the box of chocolates Dad bought for Mom. Thinking about it then and now, I thought this was just a box of generic holiday attempts for affection. Years later, as I finally compiled my family tree, now centuries old, I'd find occasional old photos of Mom and Dad, wedding photos, black and white photos posing with friends, photos of them on a cruise, even meeting Rod Serling when his TV show The Twilight Zone was at its peak. Once I was grown, moving on my own, I asked my mother if I could have some of her old cocktail dresses she wore over the years with Dad. Absolutely gorgeous little black dresses you could see models wear back in the day on the runway. She gave me a few of those dresses, but she also gave me a few pieces of her jewelry, including a gold ring with an ankh on it after, I lost my spot, after she explained to me that Dad gave her this ring and told her that the ankh, this ankh, was given as a symbol of everlasting life and his everlasting love of her. My religious friends' family may have found issue with my wearing a pagan ring, but to me, the ring is only about love. As is the necklace my dad gave my mom that I was thrilled with when she gave it to me. It's a single gold pendant on a gold chain, a disc as big as a silver dollar, and inscribed on it are his words written with words from Robert Browning's poem. Come, dear, grow old with me. the best is yet to be. I think of these things after she passed away and how I would spend time with Dad because he couldn't fathom spending a single night alone in their home without her. I once traveled with him for one of his weekend gambling trips because he couldn't fathom staying in a hotel alone. His son couldn't make it, so I'd be happy to join. Taking a break from watching him playing cards and pulling slot handles, I stepped outside to enjoy the sun by the water near the casino side entrance. Eventually, a supervisor walked over to ask me if I was okay. I then realized she was concerned I may be feeling suicidal, standing here alone and staring at the water below instead of gambling, because I may have just lost everything. It was a sweet concern from the casino, as well as a good effort to cover the casino's bases, but there was no need to worry. Not now. I wasn't gambling. I was just here to make my dad feel better because his one love was no longer with him. I couldn't be with Dad when he passed away, but I was told that as he was approaching the end, his last words he said were that he couldn't wait to see her again. I hope that thought, seeing her again, put him at peace when he closed his eyes that final time.